Once, once, a rabbit and a monkey sat talking on a log.
And that rabbit, well, he twitched his shoulders.
And that old monkey scratched her leg.
And that rabbit, well, then he twitched his eyes.
And that monkey scratched her back.
And that rabbit, well, then he twitched his nose.
And that monkey scratched her head.
I sure do wish you'd stop that twitching. It's such a bad habit.
A bad habit? Well, look at you, scratch, scratch, scratch.
Well, I could stop any time I wanted to.
Me too.
Oh, yeah? We'll see. Let's have a contest. And the first person to scratch or twitch loses.
Okay.
Ready? Go.
I got an idea.
What?
Let's tell stories.
Okay, you go first.
Well, yesterday, I was walking downtown, and this boy, he started throwing rocks at me, and one hit me here and here and here and here.
Well, the other day I was walking in the marsh, and this big cloud of mosquitoes came by, and one bit me here and here and here and...
I give up.
Me too. After all, it's very hard to break a bad habit.
Now, if you all think the monkey and rabbit had bad habit, just listen to this next song about Liza and her family.
Liza wakes up early in the morning, kicking at her husband, yelling at her kids. Get up, I'm giving you a warning, or I'll give you the hopping fits. Today is Monday, tomorrow is Tuesday, Wednesday will soon be coming on. Better get up and get moving, the week's half over and the washing ain't done.
Sister had a habit of sucking on toothpicks, Junior had a habit of a dip and snuff, Granny had a habit chewing tobacco and spitting her juice in an old tin cup. Brother Joe, he chased women, and Papa had a habit of a drinking wine. Liza had a habit of blistering the air and making every one of them toe the line.
Liza wakes up early in the morning, kicking at her husband, yelling at her kids. Get up, I'm giving you a warning, or I'll give you the hopping fits. Today is Monday, tomorrow is Tuesday, Wednesday will soon be coming on. Better get up and get moving, the week's half over and the washing ain't done.
Well, the other night was a terrible sight when Liza and Jones got into a fight. Sneaking down the gully with her chickens in his hand, and he met into Liza with a butcher knife. He grabbed that rail and he took his stance, and he swung for to give old Liza a whack. Liza did the dodge and Liza did the dance, and she cut Jones' shirt right off his back.
Liza wakes up early in the morning, kicking at her husband, yelling at her kids. Get up, I'm giving you a warning, or I'll give you the hopping fits. Today is Monday, tomorrow is Tuesday, Wednesday will soon be coming on. Better get up and get moving, the week's half over and the washing ain't done.
Well, the funniest story I ever did hear, Liza woke one night and took to her ear. Out through the window in the pale moonlight, saw a stranger in the garden just as big as life. She grabbed that gun, gave the trigger a pull, and she fed that stranger 2 barrels full. Come daylight, the kids I wanted to know who blasted down the new scarecrow.
Liza wakes up early in the morning, kicking at her husband, yelling at her kids. Get up, I'm giving you a warning, or I'll give you the hopping fits. Today is Monday, tomorrow is Tuesday, Wednesday will soon be coming on. Better get up and get moving, the week's half over and the washing ain't done. The week's half over and the washing ain't done.
Once, a little old lady,
and a little old man,
And a little old girl,
and a little old boy,
and a little old
foolish
pet monkey.
Well, now one day, the little old lady, she decided that she was going to bake some biscuits. But she didn't have any baking soda, so she said to the little boy,
Honey, why don't you go to the store and get me some baking soda? And whatever you do, don't you tease that fat man that lives under the bridge.
So the little boy went trotting out the door.
And he trotted over the bridge.
He trotted into the store, got himself some baking soda, and trotted back out of the store.
He trotted back up to the bridge and said,
Fat man, tell me, what makes you so fat?
Well, I tell you, this morning for breakfast, I had me a bucket of beans and a barrel of lard. Now I'm gonna eat me a little old boy. Oh, yum, 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 yum.
and he did. Well, meanwhile, back at home, that little old man
And the little old woman.
And that little old girl,
and that foolish
foolish
pet monkey. Well, they waited.
And they waited.
And nobody never did come home.
So that little old lady, she said to the little girl,
Honey, won't you go to the store and see about your brother? And whatever you do, don't you tease that fat man that lives under the bridge.
So the little girl went skipping out the door.
And she skipped over the bridge.
She skipped into the store, and the storekeeper told her,
Yes, your brother's done been here and gone. Got his baking soda. You think he could be up the road playing somewheres?
So the little girl went skipping back out of the door.
And she skipped back up to the bridge and said,
Fat man, oh fat man, tell me what makes you so fat.
Well, I tell you, this morning for breakfast, I had me a bucket of beans and a barrel of lard, and little old boy, him his baking soda. And now I'm going to eat a little girl. Oh, yum, 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 yum. Gulp.
And he did. Well, meanwhile, back at home, that little old woman
And the little old man.
And that little old foolish.
foolish pet monkey. Well, they waited.
And they waited.
And nobody never did come home.
So that little old lady, she said to the little old man,
Honey, won't you go to the store and see about the young'uns? And I'll not have to tell you this, but don't you tease that fat man that lives under the bridge.
So the little old man went hobbling out the door.
And he hobbled over the bridge.
He hobbled into the store, and the storekeeper told him,
Yes, they've both done been here and gone. First the little boy to get his baking soda, then the little girl looking for the little boy. Do you think they could be up the road playing somewheres?
So the little old man went hobbling out the door.
And he hobbled back up to the bridge and said,
Old fat man, you big old fat man, tell me what makes you so fat.
Well, I tell you, this morning for breakfast, I had me a bucket of beans and a barrel of lard. Little old boy, him his baking soda, and little old girl. And now I'm gonna eat a little old man. Oh, yum, 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 yum. Gulp.
And he did. Well, meanwhile, back at home, that little old woman
And that foolish.
foolish
Pet
pet monkey.
monkey.
Well, they waited.
And they waited.
And nobody never did come home.
So that little old lady, she just said to herself,
If you want something done right, you just gots to do it yourself.
So she took off her apron, folded it up, and put it in the cupboard, got out her prettiest bonnet, tied a cute little bow under her chin, puckered up in the mirror, and said,
Oh, honey, you still got it.
and the little old lady went hunchy hunch out the door,
and hunchy hunch over the bridge.
hunchy hunch into the store, and the storekeeper told her,
Yes, they've all done been here and gone. First the little boy to get his baking soda, then the little girl looking for the little boy, then the old man looking for both of them. Do you think they could be up the road playing somewheres?
So the little old lady went hunchy hunch out the door,
And hunchy hunch back up to the bridge and said,
Fat man, honey, won't you tell me what makes you so fat?
Well, I tell you, this morning for breakfast, I had me a bucket of beans and a barrel of lard. Little old boy, him his baking soda, and a little old girl, and a little old man. And now I'm gonna eat a little old woman. Oh, yum, 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 yum.
And he did. Well, meanwhile, back at home, that foolish
Pet
monkey.
monkey.
Well, he waited.
and he waited.
And nobody never did come home.
So that little monkey jumped off his perch. You know, he's up on the fireboard. He jumped onto the table, off the table onto the floor, stuck his scrawny tail out behind him, and went chittering out the door.
And he chittered over the bridge.
He chittered into the store, and the storekeeper told him,
Yes, they've all done been here and gone. First the little boy to get his baking soda, then the little girl looking for the little boy, then the old man looking for both of them, then the old woman looking for all of them. Do you reckon they could be up the road playing somewheres?
So the little monkey went chittering out the door,
And he chittered back up to the bridge and said,
Fat man, what makes you so fat?
Well, I tell you, this morning for breakfast, I had me a bucket of beans and a barrel of lard. Little old boy, him his baking soda, and little old girl, and little old man, and little old woman. And for dessert tonight, I'm gonna eat a little scrawny monkey.
But he didn't. That little monkey went chittering up a tree.
And that fat man went way up there after him.
The little monkey just scampered out on the end of the limb.
And that fat man went way out there after him.
Then the monkey just jumped over to the next tree.
And that fat man looked way down at the ground and way over at that monkey and said,
"Well, if a little scrawny monkey can jump from here to there, I reckon a big, strong, fat man like me can do it too."
And he jumped. But he didn't quite make it. He sailed down to the ground, popped his fat belly wide open.
And out jumped the little old man.
And the little old woman.
And the little old boy.
And the little girl. And the little woman, she said to her son,
"Honey, where's my bacon sody?"
"Oh, shucks, Ma. Here it is." Now, that night, that little old lady, she baked the best biscuits you ever did eat.
And that little old monkey, he was so hungry from being such a big hero and all, he not only ate his biscuits,
but he also ate the little old lady's biscuits.
And the little old man's biscuits.
And the little old boy's biscuits.
And the little girl's biscuits.
And if you're not careful, tonight at supper, he'll eat your biscuits too. We're going to do a story for you now that we talked about in class today. We haven't done it for several months, but she just sort of sprang it on us this afternoon. We're going to do it for you, so I hope you enjoy it.
How many of you all have ever wondered how the flamingo got its red legs? Well, we're going to tell you. Okay, two, great. Well, we're going to tell you right now. Once upon a time, all the animals in the forest were getting ready for a festival, an annual festival that determined who would be the most beautiful creature in the forest.
And the elephant flexes his trunk and cleans out from under his ears.
And the frogs are the greenest animals in the jungle.
And the kangaroos brush their fur and clean their fingers and toes.
And the monkeys are the cleanest animals in the jungle.
And the leopards, they paint their spots very carefully.
And the owls shine their beaks between their glasses. Ooh.
And the snakes shine their skins.
Now, the flamingo was a very vain bird.
I am so beautiful. I am so graceful. I am so...
Thank you. And he desperately wanted to win the contest.
But my legs, they are so skinny. They are so white. If only I had something to cover them with. But who can help me?
Who?
Who can help me?
Who?
You can help me. Pray, Al, do you have a pair of stockings I might borrow?
Yes, I do.
Now I can be the most beautiful animal in the forest.
But once you put them on, you must never stop dancing.
Very well, I shall never stop dancing.
So finally, the day of the festival arrived. Hit it.
Oh, stop dancing so we can see your beautiful legs.
No, cannot stop.
Oh, please stop dancing. You are the winner.
The winner?
Yes, the winner.
Very well.
They are so beautiful.
They look like snake skin.
They are snake skin. They look like my sister.
They are my sister.
Oh, my legs. They are so sore. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
And that is how the flamingo got its red legs. I'm going to try to do this without a cue card here. Okay, well, we're always glad to perform, and, you know, we just like to make people aware of whatever we're trying to get across that night. And but tonight we're especially glad to be here because we've got a lot of our old friends here tonight. And Tonight is extra special because this next part of our performance that we're going to do is called Living Memories, and it's based on a poem called The Briar Sermon, You Must Be Born Again, by Jim Wayne Miller, and he's with us tonight, and we're real glad that he could be here and see it. He's read the script, but it's changed since he's read it, and we're just glad he could be here with us tonight.
Now, I bet you didn't know that when you came out here tonight, you'd be stepping into a time machine. Well, of course, it's not really a time machine, but if it were, let's see a show of hands. How many of you would go back in time and relive some of those memories? Come on, somebody's going to go back. Okay. Or how many of you are going to go forward and see what the future holds? Or maybe you're happy with the here and now. You say, well, the past, well, it's past, and the future will get here soon enough.
Well, Danny, you're right on both counts. The past is past, and the future gets here every single day, whether we like it or not. But we can't ignore either one of them.
Yeah, it's like that old song about love and marriage. You know, how you can't have one without the other. Well, it's the same thing with the past and the future.
The important thing, though, is how rich is your present day? Are your lives enriched by memories of days gone by? Now, are you going to share these memories with your children and your grandchildren so they can remember you when you're no longer around?
Now, we want to help you remember these times, but first, we need to get in the proper frame of mind. Okay, so everybody close your eyes. Okay, close your eyes. We won't sneak out on you. Everybody close your eyes. Think back to a time when you were younger, at the end of a long winter. All winter long, you've been bundled up in coats and sweaters, sitting by the crackling fire. And it's springtime now. You can go outside without your coat. And when you think your mom isn't looking, you slip off your shoes and your socks and wiggle your toes in the cool earth. You can feel the wind blow through your hair and the warm sunbeams on your face. Now, as you open your eyes, did you feel free, light-footed, like you could fly right off the earth?
Well, that was a really neat experience, Danny.
Yeah, it's like becoming a child again, but being a grown-up, too. It's the best of both. It's like going back to what you were before without losing what you've become. Let's try that again.
Come and be a child again.
Come and be a child with me, kick again and climb a tree. Let's go wading in the creek, play a game of hide and seek. Pick a daisy and foretell, loves me not and loves me well. While we swing upon the gate, let tomorrow stand and wait. Leave your cares and walk with me, touch and taste and smell and see. Let's run barefoot through the grass, make the bond our looking glass. Feel the wind blow through your hair, climb a mountain if we dare. Pluck a rose that's growing wild, come today and be our child. Lift your eyes and see the view, skies are pink and beige and blue. Catch a snowflake on your tongue, like you did when you were young. Hold a seashell to your ear, there are symphonies to hear. Listen to the sound of rain, come and be a child again. Take your time, relax a bit, find a sunny spot to sit. Pitch a pebble in the stream, count the ripples while we dream. Come, my friend, and take my hand, let's leave footprints in the sand. Like a river running free, come and be a child with me. Like a river running free, come and be a child with me. Come and be a child with me.
A friend of ours, June Goins, wrote that song, and like she says, we're all guilty of forgetting to remember. Why, us young people feel that we have to live for today, while some older people are just trying to get through the day. But you know, we're all guilty of taking things for granted, of letting our senses become dulled by everyday business and everyday stresses. We're so busy keeping up with the Joneses, making the grade, being all that we can be, that by the time that we get there, by the time that we get to the place where we can sit back and relax, is there going to be anything worth passing on to our children and our grandchildren? Is there going to be anything worth remembering?
Let's think about it this way, Danny. Now, they say people can go blind and deaf gradually and lose a sense of taste, little by little. How about you all? Have your senses dulled? I mean, can you imagine forgetting the shapes of leaves on trees, or the sound of the creek running, or to forget the taste of coffee and all your foods?
But now imagine getting all those senses back, at their fullest. You can hear the creek running again. You can see the autumn leaves on trees. Suddenly, you can taste all your food again. You're born again to sights, sounds, and tastes. You found something that you didn't even know you lost.
Virginia, oh my home. Yes, Virginia's where I belong. In the dead of the night, in the still and the quiet, I'll slip away like a bird in flight back to those hills, place that I call home.
It's been years now since I've left there. This city life's about got the best of me. I can't remember now, I left so free, what I wanted to do and what I wanted to see, but I can sure remember where I come from.
Oh, Virginia, oh my home. Yes, Virginia's where I belong. In the dead of the night, in the still and the quiet, I'll slip away like a bird in flight back to those hills, place that I call home.
Well, I've paid the price for the leaving. This life I have's not one I thought I'd find. Well, let me live, love, and let me cry, and when I go, just let me die among the friends who remember when I'm gone.
Oh, Virginia, oh my home. Yes, Virginia's where I belong. In the dead of the night, in the still and the quiet, I slip away like a bird in flight back to those hills, place that I call home. Home.
Oh, I can see it so clear in my mind.
Home, home, home.
I can almost smell the honeysuckle vines.
In the dead of the night, in the still and the quiet, I slip away like a bird in flight back to those hills, place that I call home.
Well, you hear preachers talk about being lost. What's it mean? What's it have to do with being born again? Well, a feller I know, he didn't go to church, but a church bus always ran right by his house. He had a little boy, about 5 or 6 years old, that wanted to ride it, so he let him. The little boy got up there in the church house. They were having a big revival meeting. The preacher came by, and he knelt down by the little boy, and he said, "Son, are you lost?" The little boy said, "Yes, for that church bus had gone up several creeks and hollers, picked up strange people, carried the little boy so far away from home, he didn't know where he was."
Now, we're not so different from that little boy. We too can be lost, sitting right in the church house. Because we've been taken such a long way around, why, we've gotten so far from home, we don't know where we are, how we got where we are, or how to get home again.
Now, you weren't so different from that little boy, were you? You see, that same preacher had just closed a big revival meeting, and he stepped on a train on his way back home. He found himself sitting next to a young man, and he tried to strike up a conversation. Well, after a while, he wasn't getting much response, and he turned to the young man, and he noticed tears were streaming down his cheeks. "Son, I'm a preacher, and I'd be glad to help you in any way I can."
Well, preacher, about 5 years ago, I started running around with bad gangs, stealing things. Well, one night, I got in a fight with my father, and I hit him in the face with my fist. He said, "Son, you're breaking our hearts. You're going to have to leave home." Well, I did leave home. I've traveled around the country. I've had good jobs, making decent money. But I stopped to realize how important my parents are to me. And I know it must be important to them. So I've decided to go back home. I wrote my dad a letter telling him I was coming. And that's what I'm doing now.
That's good. I'm glad you're going back home, but after all that's happened, how do you know you're going to be welcome when you get there?
Preacher, we've lived in a little white house next to these railroad tracks all my life. And in the front yard sits a big old apple tree. And I told my dad, if ever I was welcomed back into the house, he was to tie a white rag in that tree. And as I was passing, if I saw it, then I'd know that I was welcome. And well, if not, I'd keep on traveling. Preacher, I want to go home so bad.
You're afraid that white rag will be in that tree, aren't you?
We're almost there now. Would you mind looking for me?
No, I wouldn't mind. The preacher, he kind of turned and he dusted off the window with his coat sleeve. He looked out. Then after a while, he turned back with a big smile on his face. "Son, you don't have a thing to worry about. Why, that apple tree's in full bloom. It looks like your parents are standing there waiting for you. Son, I think you finally come back home."
The Mississippi's rolling by that sunny southern home. I can see white clouds are coming round the bend. There's a little old log cabin with a grapevine o'er the door, and a little whitewashed chimney at the end. Well, I'm going back, yes, I'm going back to the place I love so well, to the folks who want me on the road again. To a little old log cabin with a grapevine o'er the door, and a little whitewashed chimney at the end. I can see the smoke arising from that little chimney top, as the bramble sweet it greets me on the breeze. That's when I start to running, and I know I'll never stop till I've landed in that cabin on my knees. Well, I'm going back, yes, I'm going back to the place I love so well, to the folks who want me on the road again. To a little old log cabin with a grapevine o'er the door, and a little whitewashed chimney at the end. Well, I'm going back, yes, I'm going back to the place I love so well, to the folks who want me on the road again. To a little old log cabin with a grapevine o'er the door, and a little whitewashed chimney at the end.
Now, you've heard stories about people whose houses burned down, and how with the last bit of courage, they go back inside their homes and take out their most precious belongings. Now, what would you do in a situation like that? Or say you were going on a trip, and you knew that you wouldn't ever be coming back, and all that you would have, that place that you'd always lived, a place you knew so well, was what you could take with you. You'd want to think, what could I take with me? What would travel well? Now, I'm telling you that every day we're leaving someplace we won't ever be coming back to. What are you going to take with you? What are you going to leave behind? I want to tell you about a young man who learned what to take with him, and that the most important things aren't always the most obvious. See, there was an Indian chief, and in his tribe there were 3 young men who wanted to become braves. They'd done various tests, hunting, running, horseback riding, but the last task was the most difficult of all. They had to climb to the very top of the highest mountain around, and to prove that they had been there, they had to bring something back with them. Well, the 3 young men went running off towards the mountain, and after about 5 hours, the first one returned. He handed his chief a stick, and the chief said, "This stick, it comes from the forests that grow in the foothills. You have not yet been to the top of the mountain." And he sent this boy to the side. About 3 hours later, the second youth came into camp. He handed his chief a stone, and the chief said, "This rock, it comes from the side of the mountain. You have not yet been to the top." And he sent this boy to the side also. Early the next morning, the last youth came into camp, whistling as he walked. He stopped before his chief, and the old man asked, "What have you got from the mountain for me?" "My chief, when I reached the top of the mountain, the beauty of all that I could see below, the rivers and mountains and trees, was so great that I forgot to bring anything back." "Do not be ashamed," said the chief. "You have truly been to the top of the mountain, and the beauty that you bring back in your heart will allow your people to travel to the top of the mountain whenever they wish."
High on a mountain, wind blowing free, thinking about the days that used to be. High on a mountain, standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life have gone. As I look at the valleys down below, they are green just as far as I can see. As my memory returns, I start to yearn for you and the days that used to be. High on a mountain, wind blowing free, thinking about the days that used to be. High on a mountain, standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life have gone. Well, I wonder, do you ever think of me? Or has time blotted out your memory? As I listen to the breeze blowing through the trees, I'll always cherish what you meant to me. High on a mountain, wind blowing free, thinking about the days that used to be. High on a mountain, standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life have gone. High on a mountain, wind blowing free, thinking about the days that used to be. High on a mountain, standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life have gone. Wondering where the years of my life have gone. Wondering where the years of my life have gone. Now that boy knew I was important to remember, and he knew how he could make a difference for others. Now you've heard it said, you can't go home again. Well, I'm not so sure. Maybe your home place isn't there anymore, and maybe your folks aren't there either. But you can still go home. You can go home in your memories, if you've taken the time to save them and to savor them.
Now our ancestors, our foreparents, knew what they were leaving behind, what they wanted us to have. But we don't realize this inheritance. We don't see the value of it.
Now think of this inheritance as a house. But not just an ordinary house, but a house filled with thousands of memories, good and bad, rich and poor, proud and shameful. Now, unfortunately, it's those bad times we tend to remember, and we think that we're the only ones that have had bad or shameful times. So what do? We try to be like other people. We try to live in somebody else's house. We're ashamed to live in our foreparents' house. We think it's too old-fashioned.
We wanted to run off and leave this inheritance. We didn't want to see it. We were ashamed to hear about it. We thought it wasn't pretty because it wasn't factory made. So we put it up in the attic or threw it off in a corner of the barn, threw it down into a ditch.
But the house our foreparents left us had a song. It had a story. We didn't care. We said them old love songs, them old ballads, them old stories and like foolishness.
But we were too busy anyway, giving all our coal away, giving all our timber away, to worry about them old love songs, to worry about them old stories, to worry about them old ballads and like foolishness.
But I know a man. He had a song from his foreparents. It got carried off to New York City. And one night, he heard it played on TV.
Hang your head, Tom Dooley, oh, hang your head and cry.
Killed a Laurie Foster, poor boy, you're bound to die.
Y'all remember that, don't you? Played by the Kingston Trio on the Ed Sullivan Show. Well, when Frank Prophet heard that, he began to bawl. He went out on the ridge and said, Lord, couldn't they leave me the memories? Now, that man wasn't lost, but he knew what he had lost.
Well, we've forgotten what we've lost. We've forgotten what's ours by right of inheritance. Now, let's say this inheritance was money. You can be sure we wouldn't forget to claim it. But this inheritance isn't money. It's more valuable than money. It's something money just can't buy. It's that house, full of memories. It's the past.
But we don't have to live in the past. We can't, even if we try. We don't have to talk old-fashioned, dress old-fashioned. We don't have to live the way our foreparents lived. But if we don't know about them, if we don't love them, if we don't respect them...
Now, Todd, these people are probably saying, I'm not going to live in the past. But all the time, the past is living in you. Now, if you're lost, I say it's because you're not living in your father's house. It's the only house you've got, the only shelter you've got. Now, it may be just a mountain cabin, but it's shelter, and it's yours.
Now, you've heard it said that you can't put new wine in old bottles. Well, I don't know. But don't be too sure you're new wine. Maybe we're all old wine in new bottles. Thank you. Real quick, we'd like to introduce ourselves. So, my name is Eva Short, and I'll be a freshman at Warner Southern College in Florida next year.
Leah Martin, and I'll be a junior next year at Pulaski County High School.
Christy Hall, and I'll be a freshman at Radford next year.
Todd Vyers, and I'll be a junior next year.
Daniel Leary, I'll be a junior.
Jimmy Questmer, and I'll also be a junior.
Jeanette Webb, and I'll be a senior. And we'll be available for questions, and you can go back and look at our scrapbook and storyboard, and feel free to talk to us. We'll be around. Thank you again.